Welcome back to Start Your Day. Look at that. Gymnastic competition is underway in Tokyo Olympics right now. And our next guest is a world champion who changed the face of rhythmic gymnastics. Wendy Hilliard was the first African American to represent the United States in international competition. And today, her foundation helps thousands of kids in underserved communities. Good morning, Wendy. Thank you so much for joining us here at Start Your Day.
Oh, good morning, Shannon. Great to be with you.
Great to see you as well. Now, we got to talk about the Olympics, obviously, but as a competitor and four-time U.S. national team coach, do you think that Team USA is doing good so far? I mean, second place, 14 medals. How are we faring?
Well, it's the early part of the Olympics, so that's one thing. There's
Mhm.
a lot more to come, and a lot, track and field always brings us a lot of medals. For USA Gymnastics, the men, they just finished up their team competition today, and the women, didn't have their best day on the preliminaries. But it's the Olympics. I think people need to understand. We can call a lot of things. We can say this is going to happen. But the one thing about the Olympics is that because it happens every 4 or 5 years, always something can happen. But we do have a great team, and I'm hoping the best for all the athletes.
Now, we're seeing Simone Biles here on the screen right now, and I know she had a rocky start to her Olympics this year. What would your advice be to her to get back on the horse or to recover after her previous?
you know I don't have any advice for Simone. I don't
Right.
think advice for Simone because she's the best in the world. But I would say this: she said it in an interview, is that it's always hard. That first competition it manages to determine who's going to be in the team finals, individual finals, the event finals. She didn't have her best day, but she qualified in every final, which she didn't even do in 2016. So that tells you the quality of her gymnastics, the difficulty that she has. And for her, it's just about, I'm assuming that she just needs to do what she does all the time, and just focus. And I have great confidence that her training has gone quite well, and she'll do her best.
Yeah, I'm not worried about her at all. She's still the GOAT. But you know what? There are this year more challenges than ever before, with more than 150 COVID-19 cases tied to the games and no audience present. How difficult do you think it is, or more difficult than normal it is, to compete under all of these circumstances surrounding the competitions?
Well, I think the hardest part was most of the athletes getting to the games, right?
Mm,
Trying to train or not being able to train during COVID, waiting a year. I mean, that's a lot on everybody. And so some people took advantage of it, some people needed the rest, it didn't happen. And then what's the most heartbreaking is after these athletes got to the Olympic Games, not to be able to compete because of COVID. So I will say this much is that, as you can see from the performances that you're going to see, you have seen, and you're going to see, these athletes are amazing, and they're going to pull out the best that they can. That's what makes the Olympics such an exciting event. So they're very well trained, and my heart just goes out to those that can't compete.
mm.
But they are used to these trying circumstances. To be honest with you, not having an audience isn't the biggest thing. They are so psyched to be able to compete. Let's
Yeah,
be clear.
right.
So it's tough. I don't think, when you train like that, I don't think it's going to matter that much whether someone's in the audience cheering for you. Because, to be
Right.
honest with you, athletes, they tone all that out when they compete.
Mm, right, that's what they're trained to do. Well, you know what? Athletes like Simone Biles and Gabby Douglas, they have women like you and women like Diane Durham to thank for sort of paving the way into the sports. But that didn't come without facing racism head on. Can you tell us what happened to you ahead of the World Championship in 1983?
Yes. Well, in rhythmic gymnastics, there's an event called the group routine, which is basically six, now five athletes compete a synchronized routine. I'd already been in the world championships twice. And so what you do is you train, you go to Olympic Training Center. We were there for about 6 weeks, and I was in the first group. And so they announced the team. They put everybody in the room. They're like, this is the team that's going to the world championships. And they didn't announce my name. I was shocked. And my other teammates were shocked. Everybody was like, what's going on? And I asked the coach, and the coach said, oh, when do you stand out too much? I was like,
Wow.
are you really telling me that because I stand out, because of my color? But let me tell you, I told my parents, and they were having none of it. They called
Mm,
USA Gymnastics, and they told them what happened. And so as a result, they had to go from the results from the national championship. So I was able to go, but it taught me. I was shocked. I was really shocked at that time. And then when you're an athlete, like I said, you get everything out of your mind to do your sport. But at that point, I had to deal with it, and that actually set me on a path to be an advocate for athletes' rights.
And you continue to do that and break barriers. You became the first African American and gymnast to be named president of the Women's Sports Foundation. So what were some of the biggest challenges then compared to today?
It's pretty amazing. So I was president 95, 96. And in 96, though, it was a breakthrough time, right? All of the female athletes, like now is the first Olympics, I think that they have more women than men in the Olympic Games. But in 96, it was a different time. And all of these teams, the women's basketball team, the women's gymnastics team, softball, soccer, everybody won. And so it was kind of the new era. But right before that, I was fighting. I was fighting for Title IX. I was fighting for women's rights, and we still have a long way to go. I mean, the equal pay, there's so many other issues that come up, and so there's always a fight. But here's the thing, it's always worth a good fight because the athletes are doing so great. The female athletes, whoop, whoop, are doing super great. And so, that's it's all the work worth it.
Well, we're going to give you one of those whoop whoop too because you're doing great. Congratulations on yet another milestone. The Wendy Hilliard Gymnastics Foundation is celebrating its 25th anniversary. I can't believe it's been that long. And I loved when my kids were able to go to it when they lived in the Harlem area, and kids in Harlem and your hometown of Detroit take part in this. But it really does teach them more than just gymnastics. I mean, my kids learn so much about just being proud of who they are, what they look like, what their bodies were developing into. So can you talk to us a little bit more about what else your program does?
Well, gymnastics is a foundational sport, and there's no doubt that with, of course, Gabby Douglas and then Simone Biles and Johnny Dawes, before you talked about the lineage of blacks in gymnastics, and, rest in peace to Diane Durham. Being in a situation which my Gymnastics Foundation does is that we have really great coaches that look like the kids that we serve, right? So we're in Harlem, we're right next to Washington Heights and the Bronx. So all of our teachers are diverse, but they're always great gymnasts. And so the thing is that it's important to support your young people in a foundational sport. They may not stay in gymnastics, but it'll make them better in everything else they do, as you can see. And it's just been a joy to be able to provide this sport to underserved youth, almost 25,000 of them.
Wow, well, we just wish you much success in everything you do, and please continue having that foundation and giving an opportunity for children to be exposed to gymnastics who in many cases would not ever have touched the floor, the mat, and be able to tumble. And they are talented. I just see them flying through the air and I'm like, wow, it's amazing. So continue the great work. Thank you so much. Hall of Fame gymnast Wendy Hilliard for being here on Start Your Day.